Hey HBs, this is Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends fangirl over romance, go off on tangents, and celebrate each other. Before we get into your special treat, we need to do a Patreon shout out. Jennifer L., you are a doxie, which is a small flying creature, sometimes mistaken for a fairy. But get close enough and a careless observer will find they've made a big mistake. Doxies are sometimes called biting fairies because they have 2 rows of teeth and don't put up with any bullshit. They also have extra limbs and poisonous venom. So basically like fairies, but way better. And now we've got a little surprise for you. Tessa Bailey is a guest host today. That's right. Best-selling author and co-host of the Read Me Romance podcast is here to recap the movie Safety Not Guaranteed. Here we go. Hi, Tessa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How the hell are you?
I'm fantastic. It's Wednesday night. I've had 3 glasses of wine. I just want to preempt anything silly I say with that.
Oh my gosh. Can I just tell you that one of the funniest things about recording this podcast is that we have literally never had alcohol on it. Like Aaron and I, as silly as we get, as like rambunctious and crazy as we are, I have no idea what would happen if we actually were drunk.
Well, you haven't lived yet.
I know.
This is the After Dark episode.
I'm into it.
Yeah, we're going to bring it down. Okay. Barry White. This is a Barry White episode. We're going to bring it down.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Bow chicka bow wow. All right. So we are here to talk about a bunch of things. One of which is all of the projects that you're doing. I don't know how you do so many projects. You're like super lady because you've got all of your publishing. Most recently, as far as traditional publishing is concerned, is Fix Her Up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the first of a trio or a duet?
It's the first in a trilogy, and it's the Hot and Hammered series. So
that is so cute. I love that.
It snuck past the censors. I've like introduced so many inappropriate titles because I'm like, you give me Hot and Hammered, and then you don't give me anything else. Like I've introduced like for the third book in the series, I'm trying to convince them to call it Flip Off because it's about flipping houses.
That's adorable.
It's amazing, but Target won't let it in. You see,
God damn it, Target! This is why we can't have nice things.
I know, and like the thing is. This is the first series I've ever had that has like kind of the cartoon animated, like illustrated covers on them.
Yeah.
And they're the same exact book I've always written. So Target never let me in before, but I slapped this cover on them and all of a sudden I'm in Target and it's like,
all of a sudden, I
fooled you.
That's right.
You're a bunch of suckers. There's still blowjobs in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, Target really should open their minds a lot more than what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the covers are gorgeous.
Thanks.
And I actually got Fix Her Up on the audiobook, and I absolutely loved it. The actor that you have for that is just wonderful. Charlotte
Charlotte North, I believe, is her name.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. I think she's fantastic.
Lovely. So that actually is going to be on sale soon, right? Is that
think
right?
On either Black Friday or Cyber Monday, it's going to go on sale for $1.99, and it's usually a $9.99 ebook. Which we're all going, what? I am also going, what? But it's going to be on sale for $1.99. So it's a really good time to snatch it up and avoid your family on Thanksgiving by reading this book. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously. You will never make a better decision. Because I completely fell in love with Georgie and Travis.
Oh, thanks.
Like, geez. And like the opening scene, it's not quite a meet cute, right? But the opening scene is incredible. So fun.
Yeah. So it's the only scene that survived the first draft.
No,
that's not a lie.
What?
Yeah, I had to. I rewrote this book 3 times. And the very first draft, so basically she is the pesky younger sister And there's this baseball player who, so it's best friend's older brother. He's this professional baseball player. She's the pesky younger sister. He has left the Major League Baseball scene because of an injury. He's like wallowing in self-misery in his apartment. And she comes in and she just like picks up a carton of just nasty, moldy, lo mein, like Chinese food off the floor and just hucks it at him. And she's like, get up, asshole. That's like, it's time to reclaim your life. And he does. Yeah. He doesn't want to admit it, but he actually does get up and get out and start trying again because of this pesky younger sister. And they form this kind of unlikely friendship. So it's a story.
And then there's a fake relationship, you guys. Like there is so much catnip in this goddamn thing. Yeah. And between this book and Katie Roberts' Desperate Measures, I now no longer mind the like sort of baby girl in the bedroomness. That used to be a big hard limit for me. And you guys have broken me in all the best ways. So thank you for that.
You're welcome on behalf of me and Katie, who I love.
That's right.
Yeah. I got a couple complaints about him calling her baby girl. And
whatever, man.
I don't know. You know, like
it worked for me. I don't give a shit. And I hate it. And it worked for me. So
I don't know that in real life I would like some man to call me baby girl. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like watching somebody else do it and live it and be called that. It doesn't have the same feeling as being called it yourself.
Yeah, I definitely also think it was particularly appropriate for them. Like contextually, it was perfect because I think because of Georgie's story and her like emotional obstacles, it was really nice to see her sort of reclaim that in her own mind and body, if that makes sense. It would make more sense if you have read the book or you do read the book. So if you haven't read the book, bitches, get out there.
Well, I feel like in the beginning he called her baby girl to be condescending because he was trying to like push her away. It was his best friend's younger sister, and he's like, no, this is not going to happen. And then in the middle, it becomes an affectionate thing, and it's not like a parental term in this way, in this book, at least in this book. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it's fun to watch the way he calls her that kind of change throughout. So.
Yeah, completely. And then you've also got your own little podcast, don't you?
Yeah.
Should we chat about that?
That's why I have all this recording equipment that I'm able to talk to you on.
It's really exciting.
So I'm a co-host of the Read Me Romance podcast, and it's a weekly podcast. We release a free audiobook every week, and a lot of the times it's an original audiobook from one of your favorite authors. We've got Katie Robert. You just mentioned Katie. Sierra Simone. I mean, we actually have 54 free audiobooks on the podcast right now.
Incredible. Yeah.
It's been a crazy project, and we just passed our 1-year anniversary, so we're super proud of it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. I co-host with Alexa Riley. I should mention that. Leah and Mel, also known as Alexa Riley, they're my co-hosts, and we've just been working really hard on it. And you guys know what it takes to what energy it takes to put into a podcast. So
oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't have to wrangle like anything else. I'm just dealing with Aaron and I for the most part. And then every once in a while a guest will come on, but having to wrangle suppliers and actors and all the rest of it, like I don't know how you do it. It's amazing.
I don't know either. It's kind of like a mystery. Every week it just happens.
Yeah.
Whether by fair means or foul, we get it done. But we've kind of like, we call them lady listeners, our lady listener base, and they've just kind of become this like family of ours. When they come to signings and we meet them, we feel like we already know them because we overshare so much on the podcast that we're like, oh, she knows everything about me, from my porn searches to like my deepest faults. So yeah, it's been kind of cool.
Yeah, I definitely know how that feels. I'm like, what have I told?
Are you an oversharer as well?
Huge oversharer.
And
Absolutely.
It's like one of the craziest things. Like I will meet somebody and overshare immediately off the bat, and then walk away from that interaction like, why did I do that? I will never see that person again, and unless they come back, and then they're my friend for life. But
absolutely, that's my thing. Like, this is me. I can be no one else. So, like, you like it or you don't, and that's fine. But
yes. 100%.
Yeah, but we are recapping something super fun today. I asked Tessa to choose either a novella or a rom-com, and she actually chose one of my favorite of the past, 5 years or so. So today we are recapping Safety Not Guaranteed. I'm so excited about it.
Wait, so you already seen this movie after when we contacted each other about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you rewatch it?
I did rewatch it.
I rewatched it last night.
Yeah.
Sobbing.
I need absolutely no excuse to rewatch this movie.
What a masterpiece.
I have a giant crush on Aubrey Plaza, have for years. Aubrey Plaza has a lot of the same mannerisms as Erin, and so it's a very small wonder why I love her so much. Mark Duplass is an absolute dream in literally everything, in the most awkward, weird way. He's just a dream. Yeah, Jake Johnson, how can you go wrong, man?
He was so, I was kind of worried about rewatching it because I was like, I hope I don't not love it as much as I did the first 3 times, because it's been out since 2012, I think.
Yeah.
And his character was the most problematic for me, I would say, because I don't know what we were supposed to glean from his, what was the moral we were supposed to glean from his storyline. So just to set it up, I guess we should set it up that it's 3 journalists from Seattle. They are searching for stories to cover. They come across a want ad, a personal ad, a classified ad. And it's I'm going back to the future, or I'm going back in time, not Back to the Future. That's a different movie. I'm going back in time. You have to bring your own weapons. This is serious. Your safety is not guaranteed.
That's right. Serious applicants
only. Triflers need not apply.
That's right.
Yeah, so they find this classified ad and they're like, let's go cover this story. Let's find out who he is. So
the 3 of them, there's this D-bag Jake Johnson, awful smarmasaur, sort of washed up journalist who's the leader of this pack. He's talking to 2 interns. And in front of these interns, he drops that he's banged the boss and he's proud of it. And it's weird. And it's a whole thing. And then he's like, yeah, we're going on this road trip. But you very quickly find out that he has absolutely zero interest in the actual story. He's just going back because he's having a midlife crisis and he wants to bang this chick from high school again and sort of rediscover.
Deeply unhappy. Yeah, he's deeply unhappy. I think that's the whole
he wants to rediscover his youth. Right.
Yeah.
And then Aubrey Plaza, meanwhile, is one of the interns. She's been really, really depressed since her teens because you find out that her mom died when she was really young. And she's sort of trying to find her way in the world. Oh my God, can I just tell you? Michael was in the kitchen when this movie started. And I had forgotten the changing the toilet paper scene in the bathroom because Aubrey Plaza, okay, picture this. She's on her knees in front of a toilet. She's trying to wrangle this toilet paper thing. And her chopstick or her pin or whatever's in her hair comes out and her hair falls into the toilet, you guys. And I screamed from the living room. Michael was like, what's going on? Like a bear was attacking me or something. And I was just like, no, her hair is in the toilet. Oh, God.
There's nothing worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd completely forgotten that happened. Anyway, so she and this other intern, this what is he, a 22-year-old bio major who's he's filling out his resume.
He's the book smart one of the group.
Yeah,
he's the techie,
and so he's coming too. And the douche canoe keeps on being like, "Oh, we gotta get you laid, bro," and it's
gross. Yeah.
Yeah, and Aubrey Plaza just keeps on side-eyeing him in the most brilliant way that she has. It's just great.
Yeah, so then she, so obviously Jake Johnson, that's his name, he has no interest in doing the story, so he sends Aubrey, because there's nothing problematic about sending, this 20-year-old girl into the presence of this unknown man who thinks he's going back in time. There's nothing scary about that. But she like nails it.
He tries first though, right?
He does try first. That's fair.
Yeah. And so
He's
he
rejected.
goes to his house or something and he gets firmly kicked to the curb. And the guy he reads him for filth right there. And he's just like, no, you are not worthy for this. You don't have a good reason and you're not worthy and get out of my face. So that's when, because Aubrey also finds him. They stake out the post office. She does. It's the best.
Yeah, he's got a P.O. box, and so, like, they stake it out. And they look it's so funny because they're, like, these two city millennials in this tiny little small town. And they stand out like sore thumbs, you know?
They're in an Escalade inexplicably. Oh, because I'm sure that was his purchase just before this trip. His midlife crisis purchase.
He keeps referencing the Escalade too, which is probably the funniest part of one of the funniest parts of the movie. He's like, "You ever gotten drunk in an Escalade?" Yeah. Which is so 2012. Like, I don't even know if they manufacture those anymore.
Right.
So yeah, he gets rejected because he doesn't have like a pure heart or whatever.
Yeah.
But Aubrey Plaza like approaches him in the store where he works, and she's like, just don't jerk me around. And she just makes this wonderful impression on him, and he's like, okay, you're ready for the next level. I'm going to start training you. So he starts training to go back to the future. Wait.
I have past. To. Yeah. I wrote down a couple of quotes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Please drop them.
One of them is that he looks at her straight in the face and he goes, "Have you ever stared fear and danger in the eye and said yes?" Oh, it is so good. Oh, wait. No, I think that's what he says to Jeff.
Yeah, but he also says it to her, and she's like, "Well, she goes,
No, he says, "Have you faced certain death?" And her response is, "If it were so certain, I wouldn't be here, would I?"
And he's so impressed, like, but doesn't really show it. He's just kind of like, oh, like, just to paint the picture, he's kind of like a nondescript, like, man. I mean, he's Mark Duplass, but like, if you didn't know he was Mark Duplass, he would just be kind of nondescript in like a blue kind of like Walmart type vest and kind of a mullet style haircut. And he's just like, okay, all right, I see what you're working with. But it's like, it's such a beautiful story. Like, she slowly, at first you're like, this guy's insane.
Yes.
He's absolutely.
Completely.
He's got, and you'll feel bad for him because you think he's got some mental insufficiencies. And
he probably does.
You think he does, like, in the end?
No, I mean, like, we all do in some way.
We all do in some way or another, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not legit. I'm just saying you can be legit and a few cents short of a
You think they shouldn't be doing? You definitely feel like they should not be doing this story on him because it's not fair. That's what I mean by that. Is that he's not. It feels like they're making fun of him a little bit in the beginning by doing the story.
Right.
But she meets him, and after spending like one day with him, you can see she's starting to not believe him that he can go back in time. But she's starting to like warm up to him and kind of like see a different side of him.
Yeah, and she believes in his sincerity.
She does.
And not in a you're a nutter butter kind of way. But like every time he starts training her and he starts doing like crazy moves and he's like kicking the air and he's rolling around on the ground and he's like, trying to do target practice and all this kind of thing. And he looks ridiculous, and they do everything they can, the filmmakers, to make you want to believe that this is going bad. This is going to be terrible. Yes, and every time she's just so taken with his charm. She just finds him so charming
because he comes out with really these like really poignant insights into her. And she's one of my favorite types of heroines in a movie, and I don't feel like you come across her very often in a rom-com because she's just sad. She's sad and she's depressed, and she has a legitimate reason to be so, not just because she's quirky or because she's clumsy or whatever. She is legitimately sad. She can't get out of it. She can't break out of it. And she has a good reason for it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's crazy how they connected. And he like reached in and he understood her right away. And you could see this bond form between them. And that scene where he sings her the song.
Oh my gosh, we're not there yet.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
It's
That's
okay.
all I wrote down.
I want to get there too. That's
all I wrote down.
I want to get there too. Oh, yeah. Hey, HBs, I've got big news. Book 1 of Sarah Whitney's sassy, sexy new contemporary romance series is available now. You'll be so happy curling up with Tempting Heat, a snowbound second chance romance. So picture this. You're a hungover guy who wakes up in a strange apartment to find that you are trapped by a blizzard, with the one who got away, who kind of definitely hates your guts, when the power goes out and body heat becomes essential. What's a guy to do when all of that combines with secrets coming to light? Our very own Blair says on Goodreads, it made my heart squeeze and my cheeks flush. Finn and Tom are 100% guaranteed to make you swoon. And not only did I get an arc, but the stars aligned and I actually had time to read it. HBs, I devoured this book in about 4 hours because I couldn't stop. It has an emotional arc that had my heart stuttering and then racing and then melting. Plus, I was giggling from start to finish. If you're at all familiar with Sarah from the HB episodes she's guest hosted on, those being Beautiful Player by Christina Lauren and Can't Escape Love by Alyssa Cole, you know she's warm and quick-witted. Her humor comes through in spades. We're including buy links in the show notes for this astonishing debut novel, so get on it. This is a definite one-click. Okay, so then he says something like they're supposed to meet, but she's like, we're being followed because I think they're in the car or something like that. Honestly, I was writing so quickly that I can't quite read my chicken scratch. Normally I type my notes and this time I didn't. It was a mistake.
All right. I wrote down nothing, so I probably can remember.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. So yeah, so she says for him to follow, and then like they think that they're getting followed or whatever. And so he calls her and he's like, it's too hot right now. And then he like reaches up and like goes to fix his ear or like check that it's in the same place. And it's this really tiny gesture that I had sort of forgotten about somehow.
I didn't catch it. I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So he like goes to like fix his ear and then he drives away. So then Jeff goes to the hair salon to find his old flame. And then he's talking about it afterwards, this dick nose. And he says that time has not been good to her. And my note is in all caps, fuck you, hate.
Suck it.
He's trying to say that she's like,
he does say that she's gained
and
weight,
like
yeah.
wrinkled. Like, fuck you, bro.
She
she looks great. And also, I don't care if she did or not.
She is,
she's lovely.
If she is a size 6, I'd be shocked.
Maybe.
I'm like, how dare they?
Yeah.
She is a beautiful woman. I mean, even if she was a size 26.
Right.
But she, it's so funny. Like that whole situation of him like tracking her down, her being like, you need your neck feels a little tight, and giving him this massage and then feeding him pie. And you're like, he's just a little boy that needs to be taken care of. Is that what this is all about? He's just like a child that needs to be taken care of. I feel like
the moral is going around in my brain, and I might be able to catch it by the end of this, but I'm not super sure. I've got something percolating though. I don't know.
He has these moments though of being genuinely caring about other people. He does.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
And it's like, there's only brief glimpses. And if he was a female character, he would still be a bitch. But because he's a man, like the briefest of glimpses, you're like, he's redeemable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't we give men so much leeway?
We do.
Okay. Then they have a meeting somewhere. I think my note says Gantz meeting. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so I think she asks him where he's going or something like that. And my note is, you kill Hitler. They don't say that, though.
Like, if you go back in time, what are you doing? What are you going to do with your time? Yeah.
Exactly. And so he says he wants to go to 2001 because he has He has to save his first girlfriend, and that's what he wants to do. Oh, game meeting. They're at a baseball game. That's where they are. Okay.
That's right.
So then they leave because the D-bag makes a scene a few rows in front, and he's like, I've seen that guy before. I think I'm being followed. Like, we got to get out of here. And it's really cute. And so they go downstairs and they have this like really meaningful standing super close together. She's looking up at him in the way that only Aubrey Plaza can. And it is hot and meaningful and like awkward at the same time. And it's lovely. And he says that he is ready. She is ready for the next step. And my note is it's palpably sexy. So there you go.
Yeah. Like in that like tunnel in a high school football stadium.
Yeah.
That might as well be like, it's so not private, but it feels so private.
It does,
in a way.
You just... Mm-hmm.
There's that roar of the crowd above your heads and the excitement
and you're just
of like, Friday night. Yeah.
It's so nostalgic, and it's nostalgic for a time I never even lived myself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like a cultural nostalgia of what high school should have been like.
Was it not like that for you?
Not super. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you guys, we get the shooting, the target practice, and the training montage, and it is magical. It's goddamn magical. He says it's one of those moments where he like sort of sees her for who she is because she keeps on missing shooting two-handed, and he's like, you might be a one-handed shooter. And so she drops one hand and immediately hits the bottle, and it's so good. And then he's super out of shape and like maneuvering around. Oh, and then I have an all caps thing I have to talk about real quick. Bing, boom, bong. Do not run in front of someone who's target practicing. Everybody. Jason Duplass, one of his things is like, oh, you gotta shoot while people are like running in front of you and stuff. And so he runs in front. Guys, that is not safe. You can't do that. You always stand in behind the people with the guns.
No, it's true.
Come on.
Number one rule of target practice.
Yeah.
Keep everybody behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you announce when you're going to like change the targets. Like, you know, safety with melody this time.
Safety
I'll
first.
tell you that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bing, boom, bong. Safety with melody. No, don't do that. Yeah, and then they start like running through the woods. And do you remember like the look she gives him while she's running behind him?
Yes.
She's got this look on her face that's just like wide-eyed, giant grin, unabashed glee.
It's like the opposite of Aubrey Plaza.
Yes.
It is her being like, I mean, the thing about Aubrey Plaza is like she rarely smiles genuinely.
Yeah.
So when she does, it's like the sunshine breaking through the clouds. You're like, oh my God, she must really feel it, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's so authentic, her descent into falling for this man. And
well, especially since as the viewer, you're sort of like, is she descending into his madness? At this point, we have no idea.
She's keeping such close quarters with her fellow journalists, though. You're kind of like, oh, she's still keeping a foothold in reality. But it's at a certain point. So there's a certain, I don't know if we're here yet, but at a certain point.
Wait, we're on the beach.
Okay.
They're having their beach meeting.
Okay.
Where he's like, I love your intensity. And then they do their backstories.
I love your intensity. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny. Yeah, and she tells him, she says, he goes, what are you going back for? And she tells him she's going back to save her mother.
Yeah.
She says, oh, you know, it was just some guy like at a gas station took her and killed her. And she goes, actually, that's not true.
Yeah.
She was on her way home from work and I asked her to stop and get me chocolate milk because I had to have chocolate milk. And she called me from the gas station and said, I got your chocolate milk. And she was so excited to come home. And all I said was, whatever. I wasn't even cool about it. And that was the last time I talked to her. And I was like, it just explains at this point you're like at 70% through the movie. And so you're like, okay, well, you just explain so much about her. Yeah. And it's like a little unfolding flower throughout the movie of who she is.
And he's the person who has peeled back those layers.
She wouldn't have told anybody else that. There's no. She wouldn't have told like her idiot friends.
No, there's not
fellow
a
journalists. No, she wouldn't have told them.
Especially since, and I love the fact that at the beginning of this interaction, she tries not to tell him. And yet opening up to him, it feels like the cross between a compulsion and a choice. You know what I mean? Like she manages to hit both of those notes that it just feels so natural and so necessary for her to unburden specifically to him. It's really, really cool. It's gorgeous.
It's a little bit of just them having a connection, and also a little bit of him just being so solitary. Like there is no one he can go tell. He is very safe. He's like
true.
There's something about a hero who has no connection to anybody else because you're just like, everything I say to them, it's in the vault.
And he has so many secrets of his own that he's obviously good at keeping.
And you get to be the only one that has those secrets. There's something that's really appealing about that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that situation. It's the perfect storm of, loner meets his match, loner meets his lady kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
I mean, it sort of feels like a wolf and his one true mate. You know what I mean? Like it flirts with that trope quite a bit. It's really nice.
It does. Now that I'm looking back at it, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is like an immediate bond between them. They just like, they have this like unspoken this language that they just bandy about that is not, it's effortless. It's totally effortless.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like secret spy banter, and other times it's unburdening about their past. It's really, really nice. Ugh.
It is. It is.
Okay, so now we have to switch gears and talk about Jeff the douche canoe. Finally going to see his pal, his old flame. And he shows up at her door, and my note is, what the fuck, this woman is gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Like,
gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah. She kind of reminds me of, who am I thinking of? Oh, God. I wish I hadn't said anything because now I'm like struggling to think of who I'm thinking of.
No, that's okay. Well, I'll describe the rest of her. My notes are, she's so nice and massage and pie and gorgeous blue dress, and her boobs looked incredible. Her cleavage was to die for. I just can't even.
And also she was just interesting. Like when she was talking about her past marriage and you could just see there was so much depth there, like unplumbed depth that, was just waiting to be reached, and all he wanted was pie.
Well, and she definitely like reaches down and relies on that depth later on in the movie. So it was really nice to see this gorgeous human person, like inside and out, just sort of casually talking about how emotionally competent she is, like I had such a competence boner for this woman, and I was just like, why are you giving this dude a massage? I can't even. He does not deserve you.
But when she realizes it, it's just like her inner strength just shines through.
Yeah,
and
it's really nice.
He tries every trick in the book to get her to apologize, like the way
women
just apologize. And back, not always, but sometimes just kind of like, you're right. I'm being a little bit bitchy, like that kind of thing. And she just does it.
She won't.
It's really satisfying. It's a satisfying
great.
moment. And it's weird.
It's really
like
nice.
It's so weird. I had this like idea in my head that they ended up together. And when they didn't at the end of the movie, I was like, wow, I don't know why I didn't. And almost like at my age of 35, I'm like, God, I'm so glad they didn't end up together.
Yeah.
It was almost better that way,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was much more satisfying that way. Okay, so then Aubrey Plaza films him. We get this fun little like amateur documentary style situation. It's not quite a montage, but it's like her going through and him talking about the mission, and he's like, and the mission is about love, and it's, I don't know. It's really fun. And it comes back at the end of the movie, but it's not that big a deal. So then they go to a diner, and she sees his prosthetic ear falling off, and he flips out. This is Mark Duplass. He flips out and he's like, the mission's off and I can never see you again. And he tries to run off and get in his car. And he tells her, this phrasing really struck me. He tells her that she's not the right one, which I don't know. I don't know why that hit me in a weird place, but I was like, ooh, that's a hard thing to hear.
He was trying to hurt her into leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he sits in his car and she goes out and just sort of leans on the driver's side window and chats him through it in a very like low key, calm sort of way. And then we find out part of his backstory, right?
Yeah, we find out that he was bullied growing up because I think he was born without ears. And his parents
without one ear, yeah.
No, I think he said his parents could only afford one.
Oh.
And that they had to wait for the other one until he was fully grown. So I think both ears are actually prosthetics.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or maybe I heard that wrong, but he said they could only afford one.
Yeah.
So he has this prosthetic ear, and you know, she's like, we can never talk about this again. We can never talk about it. He's like, they made fun of me. And she's like, okay, but can I say one more thing? I think it's really cool. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he just like opens the passenger side lock on her door and she gets in. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. It's so beautiful. It's breathtaking.
It really is. Yeah. And the way that she puts him at ease about it and sort of pokes fun at herself, because she says something like people used to make fun of her for her body hair.
Oh yeah, she goes, I shaved my arms.
And,
she said, I shaved my face, my mustache, and my arms. And then he like kind of like looks at her like skeptically, and she lifts her sleeve of her sweatshirt, and he's like, oh,
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah,
yeah. So then, she gets in the car, and my note is they are begrudgingly adorable.
They are.
They are.
That's a perfect description.
So then, back at the hotel, Jeff says she not that fat. Ugh, I hate him. God damn it.
I know, you're right. He never really does redeem himself.
No.
Except for his reaction at the very end made me, I don't want to like blow it, but he,
sure.
It made me feel like satisfied with where he ended up though. Like he's going to change now because he realizes.
Exactly. I feel like he's now capable of growth. By the end of the movie, he's
capable of growth by the end of the movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the dudes are being like, there's something wrong with him. Like, he's not okay. He's a few slices short of a loaf, or whatever a good saying is. And she defends him. She's just like, you guys, he's not a crackpot. It's no.
She's like, maybe he's just like really nice. Like maybe he's just,
It's really cute.
Maybe you should cut him a break. Is this the part where then they realize he's actually being followed by the FBI or the CIA?
No, it's time for the caper.
The what?
It's time for the caper. He's got to go be a burglar.
Oh my God, that's right.
She's going to drive the getaway vehicle.
So he's like, I have one part left before I finish the time machine, and this technology company has the part in their warehouse.
Yeah.
So I need you to play my getaway driver. So he puts on the skull mask and whatever, the beanie, and
except my note is it's a mask that shows literally his whole face.
His whole face. It's an eyebrow mask, if anything.
It's got the whole face cut out, everybody. Like, and most of the time he wears it like on the top of his head. It's bananas. I don't know what kind of. I mean, again,
it's total. Like the charm of him is that he's completely inept. And
yes.
So she backs the van in, and he steals the part, and he's wheeling it down this hallway, and the people that work in the technology company are having like a birthday party with like 15 people, and they all turn to look at him as he's stealing the part, and they slowly follow him out of the building. Like,
and this is after he's done like. Yeah, and before that, he was doing like somersaults down hallways for no reason.
It reminds me of that scene in Austin Powers when he's when the steamroller is coming towards him, and he's like, "No, stop!" And he keeps coming. It's like there's chaos happening, but it's happening so slowly. And all these people are slowly following him. They're like, are you stealing a part from the
Yeah.
And anyways, they get the part in the back of the van and they take off and
it is so
they get
good.
the part. That's the most important thing. But then
and then they have to raid out those road workers, and he yells at everybody. He yells at himself, totally unprofessional.
Totally unprofessional.
As they're both sitting there. This is where we find out that he's going back to save his first girlfriend because a drunk driver killed her when he crashed into her living room.
Yeah, a drunk driver crashed into her living room and killed her, and he's going back in time to save her. And you're kind of like unsure if they were actually boyfriend and girlfriend. He's kind of like, well, she was really nice to me. We worked together. She was the only one that would listen to me. Like I would like talk to her at the end of our shift, or like I would walk her home kind of. And you're like, oh, okay. Like you're not really sure how deep that connection was or how deep that relationship was.
But you know that she was like fundamental
very special
to his being. Right.
Yeah, very.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the three amigos go to his house, and this is where they see that G-men are actually following
Actual
him.
Men in black sedans with tinted windows and black coats
and like
$40
suits.
Yeah. $40. That's right. These were not these. I would say they really scrimped in the wardrobe department for these guys, because I was I don't know. That looks like too official.
I don't know. It's pretty appropriate for a federal agent that makes like what $45K a year.
Yeah, they've been in their car for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was some donut dust on those coats, but So then you're like, oh my god, like. People are legitimately following him. And that's where like your point of view in the movie starts to shift. You're like, is this for real? Like this can't be for real. Yeah.
So he calls her and he says that he wants to pick her up at the beach.
Right.
And this is where Jeff, fucking douche canoe, asks if she has a thing for him. And she sort of sputters her no. She's like, oh, wow.
She's like, no, you saw those guys. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, look at you saw them. Like, I'm not.
Maybe you have a crush on him, not me. You do.
No, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
they go camping.
He sends her in to give money to his sweet old coworker with a sick wife. You guys.
He sends her in.
This is a heartstring.
And
it's tugging him.
You see him kind of like interacting with this guy one other time in the beginning of the movie, like talking about just general things that are bothering each other. And at the end of the movie, he sends Aubrey Plaza into the warehouse where he used to work, like the store. Yeah. And he's like, just give him the box and leave. You don't have, like, that's all you have to do. That's your mission. And she gives it to him and she's like kind of turning to walk away, but he opens the box and it's just packed full of $100 bills.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, my wife. And he doesn't say anything else, but he's like, tell him I hope he gets to where he's going.
Oh,
it's a really beautiful moment. And she realized,
so lovely.
For better or worse, like, whether he's really kind of crazy to believe in time travel, or whether he's actually legitimately going to travel in time, he's a good person. He's got a really good heart.
Oh, and
is that all that matters?
She is loving it, you guys. She is loving it. Like, her nipples are standing up. She is loving what a good heart he has.
She's hot for that heart.
That's right. So she goes out to the car and then they go camping, I think. Let me look at my notes. Oh God, she tells him that he's the sweetest man in the world when she's back in the car.
They go camping, I think, after this, and this is when they really have. This is the first kiss, by the way, during the camping. Yes. Stefan. This campsite has everything.
Yes, right.
Warm bricks. He like puts a warm brick from the campfire into like the, I don't know what you call it, the pocket of her hoodie.
Yeah, her hoodie pouch.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's such a thoughtful gesture.
And he's like, no, this is really going to work, blah, blah, blah. But that also means that as he's like pulling her coat closer to her, that their faces are getting close together. And then they look at each other. And then she goes in. She goes in for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, oh my God, but he's gonna, and you're like, if he pulls back and says he has a girlfriend, he has to go back for her from a different time, I'm going to slug him.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that. And there's no mention of her. And he's like, but he does say, sorry, there is a mention of her. He has this like odd instrument that I've never seen before. Do you remember what it was called?
I think it's a zither.
A zither. He's like, I wrote her a song. I'm going to play her when I go back. Like, no big deal. It's probably
And everybody in the world is thinking, I've seen him try to do a somersault. Like, I've seen him do all these things. He's really bad at it. And she's like, play me this thing. And I'm like, don't do it. Don't play it. Don't do it.
Don't sing. God, don't
and
sing.
Then all of a sudden, he comes out with this beautiful song.
It's like the most hipster indie classic song you've ever heard in your life. I don't know how it's not famous. I don't know how it's not played on Alt Nation every day, all day. It's the most beautiful song. Yeah. It's like, stand up, sit down. Oh my God. It's so gorgeous. And it could fit. It doesn't necessarily just fit. Actually, you know what? It might even be for her that he wrote on the spot. We don't know. Because it doesn't fit his ex, the girlfriend that he's going back for. It doesn't fit her at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. So, also just real quick, earlier in that scene, I have to tell you about one interaction they had, because she's like, I really wish I could have seen you as a kid. And he goes, I wasn't as impressive as I am right now.
I wasn't as impressive as I am right now. I'll tell you that much.
That's right. I mean, this was obviously before my martial arts.
It's so funny how that is that those things he says are so charming. It's like,
so charming. They're not cocky in the slightest.
No, not at all. Well, they are, but it's so I don't know how to describe it.
But it's not like arrogant cocky.
No, it's not. You know? It's like it hits the perfect note.
Yeah, it really does. Meanwhile, this has sort of been going back and forth with midlife crisis douche canoe, because he has gone back to his flame's house. They were gonna have dinner. He like pops her up. They feed chickens and stuff, and then
feed chickens.
And then I will say that he asks her for more pie, but then I rewound like 3 times, because it's the first time I've noticed that when he pushes her up on the table and they push all the food off, he pushes an entire pie onto the ground, face down. Like, dude, you just asked for that pie. Well, what are you doing?
I mean, this movie's rated R, but as far as I'm concerned, that deserves an NC-17 rating.
Thank you.
That's pie abuse.
Thank you. Oh, you do not do that in this house. I'll tell you that much.
No, nor in mine.
And then he actually asked her to come back to Seattle with him. And she's like, you don't actually want to be with me. You just like the idea of being with me. And it's such like a wonderful yet bittersweet conversation, because, you know, in my heart of hearts, I was like, unce, lady power. You kick that douche canoe to the curb.
How quickly he discarded the notion.
Yeah, completely.
It was like,
but it's also like, it also feels like a conversation that she's had with men over and over again. Where they sort of want to be a sexual tourist, and then they flirt with the idea of being with her long term, and she has to give them all the reality check that she just gave him. I don't know. It felt, there's so much depth to this side character. I just want to be her best friend. I feel like, yeah, she's wonderful. And so he's like in a complete huff. He's acting out in really not okay ways. And you're right. She just sort of sits up in kind of resigned way, but refuses to be like, oh, no, it's okay. She just lets him storm off because she knows that he's a dick.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really nice. She's like,
I'm not going to play the game.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to play this game where I call you back and like try and like soothe your, like unruffle your feathers and, you know, get back to this place where we can just kiss and pretend like nothing is like reality doesn't exist. And I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't have time for that.
Right.
And she's like, I think you should leave. I love when she says that. She's like, just go. Please just go. And honestly, if I was in her position, I don't know that I could have listened to everything he said, watched how he was behaving, and gone, no, I'm still not buying into that. Bye. Like, that was really, she showed some serious mettle.
Oh, it was lovely.
She reminds me of, okay, so you know 2.5, did you ever watch 2.5 Men? He had this this woman who lived in Malibu, Charlie Sheen's character. She had like a redhead. She was a redhead, and she would like climb up his balcony at night, and she was his stalker. And they became friends. And whoever that actress is, that reminds me of her. That's who I was thinking of earlier.
I love it. So then Jeff goes back to the hotel, and this is where things take a real problematic turn for our douche canoe, our local dick bag. So he goes back to the hotel, and he's talking to the intern dude, and he's like, we gotta go out for a crazy night. They pick up some high schoolers at a gas station.
They're definitely 13 years old.
It's so very small. Unnerving.
I'm like, one of them has a lot of makeup on. I think he's kind of like in the gothic style. And the other two, I'm like, they are a couple years older than my daughter. I don't know, 13, 14.
Yeah,
hanging outside,
really
fishing outside of we used to call it fishing outside of a liquor store, trying to get someone to buy you a bottle of peach schnapps or something.
Yeah. And then there's like bumper cars, and then isn't this where he's like, have you ever gotten drunk in an Escalade? This is where that happens.
That's where that happens.
Yeah.
In the park. That's how he entices them into the Escalade. You ever got drunk in an Escalade? Embarrassing.
Yeah. And then they get back to the hotel, and he pretty much like gets Arno to go back to the room with this really young girl, and his whole idea is like, you gotta
seize the moment.
Your virginity.
This is where life starts.
Yeah, he's like, I can't be young anymore, so like, you need to be the crazy youth I would like to be, I guess. I don't know. It's very.
I know that there's a little bit of unresolved feeling with those two. But like I said at the very end, like we said, is that once the grand finale happens, you kind of look at them and you're like, they're never going to be the same.
Yes.
And there's something really satisfying in that, because their reality is suspended now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so then we go back to the campfire, and there's this really cute flirt montage where you don't actually hear anything that they say, but all of the images are them like chatting and singing and like giggling, and it's really, really cute. And then the next morning, she goes back to the hotel, and Douche Canoe gets a call that the ex-girlfriend is alive. Belinda, the lady that...
His ex-girlfriend has been alive the whole time. The person he's built the time machine for, quote unquote, she's still alive. And guess what? She's played by who?
Kristen Bell!
Kristen fucking Bell.
I forgot this, and I literally stood up in my living room and shouted, Kristen Bell!
Veronica Mars!
Yeah, so Aubrey Plaza's like, I have to do the interview. I want to find out what the fuck's going on, because she's in love with this guy. Like, he's either lying or a nutter butter, and either way, it's Concernicus. So she goes and does the and so Kristen Bell's like, he was a sweet weirdo. We never dated, and then I started dating another guy, and one day he just drove his car into the side of my boyfriend's house. Did I tell you my toddler brother did that one time?
What? Like a real car or a play school car?
Oh, no. So
was it an Escalade?
My stepdad, it was a farm Escalade. No, it was bananas. So my brother was like 2.5 or so, and my stepdad, bless him, he was new to the fatherhood game, didn't know what really to do with himself, and sort of walked into this family with me, teenage daughter, and then my brother, toddler. And so he brought my brother out to the car, and he forgot something in the house. And so after the car was started, it was a Ford F-150. He was like, okay, I'll be right back, thinking it's totally fine. What can the kid do? But with the gear shift right near the steering wheel, right up there, he could do a lot, like put the car accidentally in drive. Oh, so he just put the car in drive, and it rolled and got enough momentum to go right and bang into our house.
That's insane.
Everyone was fine. The kid was fine.
Thank
the
God.
House was fine. Everybody was fine. But yeah, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, darling, no. Always take the toddler with you. He learned a good
Anything
lesson
that can go
day.
wrong will go wrong as long as there's a toddler involved. Yeah.
That's true.
So yeah, like this meeting with Kristen Bell, is she's kind of like, yeah, he just like left a dent under the kitchen window, and I convinced my boyfriend to like let him go, and she's like, he just like wouldn't have been somebody you could like easily fit into your life, like to fit in with your friends. And and that's the most heartbreaking moment, because you're like, oh, like you're kind of like, is Kristen Bell terrible or is she not terrible? And then that's the moment where you're kind of like, oh no, she's not. Yeah. She's not worth building a time machine for. Clearly not.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's totally true. Because she was so foundational to him and his emotional map, and he was a complete blip on her radar.
It's sad. And it's kind of like, you kind of wonder if that was really what it was about, or if it was just him latching onto anything to be able to relive this certain time of his life, because it was traumatic with the bullying and the ear situation. And was she just like the catalyst? Or but it's sad, because you're sitting there, Aubrey Plaza is in the living room, and she's finding out this devastating information, and Kristen Bell's just kind of brushing it off like it's just kind of like every other conversation she's ever had. And it's really this guy's whole life is built around this girl and this like thing, this relationship he thought they had.
Yeah, completely. And I also think that there's this really neat layer where Kristen Bell's character is sort of trying to commiserate with Aubrey Plaza, trying to be like, well, you understand. She's not really the kind of guy that you could do X, Y, and Z with. And meanwhile, Aubrey Plaza's character is trying to be really like sort of cool about it, but also thinking to herself, no, I was definitely going to fit him into my life. Like I was,
she goes,
I was there.
She goes, we've all had a guy like that.
Yeah.
And Aubrey Plaza was like, oh yeah, sure.
So then as she leaves the house, this is when the G-men approach her.
Yes.
And they're like, we think he's a spy. We think he's sending technology to we don't know who. And they're like, okay, great. We'll get you any information we have if we have it. But like, that's not what the story's about. And we don't know anything.
Yeah.
So then they go to his house. Oh my God. Shit's about to go down.
This is the final-ish scene. They go to his house. No, like nobody's answering the door, right? So Aubrey Plaza walks in and she's like calling his name, and
it's a straight up serial killer's house. I'm sorry, it is.
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah,
it's like
he's
very
been alone
silent,
for a long time.
A lot of like old picture frames of people from way in the past, and it's very rickety, very creaky.
It's very Bates Motel.
So, she stumbles upon his like research room. And that's when he comes in. He's like, oh, what are you doing in here? And she's like, where are your lasers? Like, where are all the things you stole? Like, where's this time machine? Like, where is it?
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing right now? I love when he keeps saying that. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Uh-huh.
I love the way he said that.
Well, because meanwhile, he's told her, like, there's a departure point. You know what I mean? He's like, well, the time machine is at the place that we're going to...
He says, the time machine is at the launch point. I'm telling you, that's where it is. And she's like... I went to Melinda's house today, and he's like, oh, okay, great. So she's still alive. That must mean our mission succeeded and we've saved her. And she's like, stop it. Like, just be honest with me. Stop. Like, she's still alive. We didn't go back in time.
And then the douche canoe walks in, and he's like, wait, you're with him? And like, then they tell him about the article. And then he says, have you been making fun of me this whole time?
Heartbreaking.
Yes. It's...
Yeah, so he finds out in that moment that she's basically approached him from the start because she's writing an article for a magazine.
Yeah.
So he's heartbroken, and she's like, she's speechless because she's mad at her coworker for walking in, and also she's found out that he's been basically delusional about this woman, or lying about this woman being dead the whole time.
Right.
So he takes off. Mark Duplass takes off into the woods. And they're like,
then they go to the shed.
They all walk outside and they go to his shed, and they walk in, and it's basically like
there's some serious diagrams on there.
You know, in A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
It's like A Beautiful Mind in there. And and it's obvious that some serious like some serious assembly required happened
some
in there.
Tinkering.
There's some tinkering happening in there. So she goes running off into the woods.
Yeah, she's like, I think this seems more legit now. Like, I don't know what to do with
it's
this
her heart.
information.
Her heart's telling her that there's a reason she needs to get to the launch. She needs to get to this launch point, but she doesn't know where the launch point is. So she runs to this old truck in the middle of the woods where there's this like metal box stashed in there that they decided, like, if you go back in time, we'll leave notes for our future selves. You know, in case any problems need to get fixed. So she goes to that metal box. There's nothing in there, but she hears a noise. It's like a whirring noise happening like out in the distance. So she runs toward it. And sure enough, are we spoiling the ending?
Yes, that's what we do.
Sure enough,
welcome to Heaving Bosoms, everyone.
I wasn't sure. There's Mark Duplass in the middle of this like pond. I guess I can describe it as like a swamping boat with like a giant propeller attached to the back.
Turns out, just like Back to the Future, where they're going, they also don't need roads because they're in a boat, bitches. It's great.
So and all these like intricate like machines, like all this intricate machinery, like and a giant laser pointing straight up at the sky.
Yeah.
And he asks her again. He said, "Were you making fun of me this whole time?" And she says, "No, that was all me." And he's like, "Take my hand." And she walks across the plank and she gets in the boat machine, the time boat machine.
Oh my gosh. And then the G-men come up. And then the douche canoe and the other intern come up. And they're all watching
all watching it happen. Oh, he goes, "The mission has been updated. I'm going back just for you." For her mom.
I'm going back for you now. We're going to save her mom, you guys.
So everybody, so you're still at this point, you're still like, this is probably not real.
Right.
But it's beautiful
and then
nonetheless.
He puts in the part he stole into the doohickey that needs it. And then things start whirring even harder. And then this goddamn
propeller starts boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. And then this ball of energy starts coming out.
It comes and it swallows up the boat from the rear. And everybody's like cheering. They're cheering because they're like, even if this is fake, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then the fucking boat disappears and they're
gone. Oh my gosh. Gone. They are gone.
They went back in time.
They're going to save her mom.
They went back in time and they're going to save her mom.
It's time to save her mom.
And then the last scene. And by the way, you are sobbing your eyes out at this point.
Oh, hell yeah.
You're cheering, you're sobbing. It's only an 1.5-hour movie, and I don't know how they got me so invested in such a short space of time.
I know.
But so the last scenes are like the videos they filmed together in the woods of him being like, it's about love. These missions are about love. And it's them running through the woods in like slow motion, and then it's just credits, and you are sobbing your eyes out.
The credits song is the song he sang by professionals.
Studio version.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
It's wonderful.
I'm gonna go watch it again right now. It's honestly, it's it's one of my top 5 favorite movies, and I feel like it didn't get any kind of acclaim. Like if you look at it, I think it has like a 93% Rotten Tomatoes rating. Like critics loved it, and people that watch it love it. But I don't think it got a lot of attention, and it so deserves it. Like Aubrey Plaza is a revelation in this movie, and so is Mark Duplass. They're just beautiful together.
Yeah, and they have this chemistry that I would never have expected between the two of them.
Definitely not.
I don't know.
It just works. It just works. It was like the perfect storm. Yeah. I'm so glad we got to talk about this.
Yes,
it's like the movie I've been wanting to talk about for 7 years. I finally got to talk about it on a podcast. So nice. So satisfying.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, so he's legit. It's wonderful. I don't know how he bumbled his way into success, but he really is quite impressive.
He's so impressive. So impressive.
Yeah. So normally we end each podcast with a lady love. So it's like a self-love recommendation of something that you might be doing for self-care or
for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I started I went to my annual gynecologist
Yeah.
visit today, and I got
Mhm.
a mammogram referral from her.
Ooh.
And that's going to be my first one.
Okay.
And I feel like that's something I'm going to start doing every single year at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because I want to feel healthy and I want to be worry free. And I think it's really important to do. I want to be there for my loved ones forever. So
Yeah.
I got a mammogram referral today. So maybe that's my lady love of the podcast is take care of your boobies. Keep them
That's
healthy.
awesome. That's awesome. It's really funny that you say that because mine this week is also make that appointment you've been putting off.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, Michael's been telling me for 5 years that I should have these 2 moles checked out. And then when I got pregnant, they were like, growth hormone, give me all of it. And they like started ordering pizzas and having parties and stuff. Like they were bent on world domination. So I finally went to the dermatologist and my doctor took one look at him and they were like, yeah, we should just take those off and we'll biopsy them. We'll just biopsy them right now. And I was like, oh God, okay. I wasn't ready for that. So yeah. Make that appointment because your doctor might take one look at you and say, yeah, let's take those off, shall we?
I can relate to this very hard because I had something growing on my right shoulder forever and I put it off for like 5 years, like no joke, 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I would like look at it all the time. Like, what is that? Like, that seems like it's changing shape. And I finally went to the dermatologist maybe 6 months ago and she did the same thing. But like the peace of mind.
Yeah.
And like, we all think like, if I add one more thing to my day, I'm going to freak out. And I don't want to throw a wrench into my schedule. I don't want to do this. And maybe it's for other reasons too. Maybe you're scared, but God, it's so the peace of mind of it and the knowledge is so powerful too of like, maybe there is something wrong, but then you can deal with it. Now you can just deal with it and know what you're going into treatment with or whatever you're.
And if you catch it early enough, treatment might be a lot easier.
Just make the appointments.
Really, really important.
Honestly, I said it was an annual appointment with my gynecologist, but it's been 3 years. So like, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just, but it is going to be my first mammogram. I want to get my baseline mammogram because, and I found this out from another podcast. If you don't get your baseline mammogram, before 40, like say your first mammogram is at 42, then they like automatically have to do tests. Whereas if you have to test anything that comes because they don't have they don't have a baseline mammogram to judge it against to say, oh, this is what it looked like healthy. Right. And this is what it looks like now. They don't have that comparison to make. So get a mammogram before you turn 40. That's kind of like my motivation right now. I'm 35, but I totally agree with that. Make the appointment. Just do it. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm talking to myself as well.
I know. It's so easy. It's so easy to put yourself last. I make my kids' appointments like clockwork. I make, everybody else. And yet for me, I'm like, oh, it's such a hassle to like do this or that or whatever. And it's not a hassle. You're important too, listener.
And can I just say like the doctors that deal with women, specifically women's sexual health or women's bodies, are the most non-judgmental people on the planet. They don't care what you look like. They don't care what is wrong with you, like what you say you're feeling. Like maybe you're like, I have weird discharge from my nipples. Yeah. They don't care. They've heard it all and they really want to help you. And so any kind of female doctor I've ever encountered, and I'm not saying that anybody, I'm allowing for other people to have a different experience, obviously, but
of course,
like I've just found them to be the best people.
Yeah.
So they're there for you and they want to help you. And, you're not like in this situation where you're the only one. Other people have it too. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah. Yay. All right. So we should plug your socials.
Oh.
Where can they find you? Where can the people find you?
Okay. So on Instagram, I'm at Tessa Bailey is an author. I don't know. I'm on Facebook. I don't really do Twitter. Twitter is a shit show.
Twitter is something I have a hard time grasping.
It's a distraction to me. It's too much of a distraction. So I'll start following something and then that's my day gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do it. But I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and mostly I have a Facebook group called Bailey's Babes. We have lots of fun in there.
Ooh.
And the Read Me Romance podcast. I talk before we play the audiobooks with my co-hosts, and we have a good time. So.
Yay. And I think that Instagram is at Read Me Romance, right?
At Read Me Romance, yes.
Right. And you can find like the books they have out each week. You guys have such a beautiful Instagram gallery.
Yeah, and our website, readmeromance.com, like you can get the links to every single audiobook that we have available really easily.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yay. And then you can find us on all the places. We are at Heaving Bosoms on Instagram, at Heaving_Bosoms on Twitter. Facebook is the Heaving Bosoms Podcast. We have our closed group, the Heaving Bosoms Podcast Geriatric Friendship Cult, the best place on the internet. And then our
that
website
name wins.
Is where
that name wins the internet, by the way. winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
You can get our bonus content on our Patreon, and yeah, so keep being a badass.
And keep loving yourself as much as you love not always being this impressive.
Yeah! All right, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Anytime. I love this podcast. That was so much fun. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.